And I have a question, even though I know what I should do, just like what you're saying. So I have some money that I need to put into the market. So I moved it from an international index fund. I wish I would have just kept it simple with VTSAX. Anyway, I've pulled that money out and I'm waiting for a little downturn. Now, I think, of course, I know the answer. I should throw it in now. Like, don't worry about dollar cost averaging. I'm actually okay with that to put in the lump sum, but
Right.
I'm just waiting for a little dip. What could you tell me? What mistake am I making here?
Well, it's it's very, very, very hard emotionally, and especially because in an environment like now, when the market has done very well, and I talk about this in this most recent post I put up, by the way, the market's done very well. By all metrics, it's not cheap. It's fairly expensive. There is a case to be made that it's on the verge of taking a major plunge. The case being that interest rates are incredibly low, inflation is incredibly low. The government is spending money like there's no tomorrow, and that has a very high likelihood of triggering inflation, which will trigger interest rates, which will cause the market to decline. Of course, there's an argument on the bullish side. I mean, Jerome Powell was interviewed on 60 Minutes, I think, on Sunday, saying that we're coming out of COVID incredibly strong. He was calling for a 6% increase in GDP this year, which if may not sound like much, but in GDP numbers, that's huge. I mean, that's the kind of increase you only typically see in a third world country rapidly developing. So maybe all that economic activity catches up to the stock prices. The point is, there's no possible way to know. What we do know is the stock market goes up 75% of the time and goes down 25% of the time. So at any given moment, your odds are 75-25 that you're better off investing now. But of course, that doesn't mean that it's 100%. So the moment you invest, is the big fear, and it's a reasonable fear, is the next day is going to be the day that the market decides to take one of its periodic plunges. The only thing I can say to that is that if you are invested, right, once you're invested and you are always at that risk. So it's not just the risk of putting your money in today, but once you have your money in, you will always and forever be at that risk of the next day will be when it drops 50%. And as I said, just like hurricanes and blizzards, that's a natural part of the process. So that will happen to you one day, just like it happened in '07, '08, just like it happened in '87. So it's a hard decision to make. And I hesitate telling you this because, of course, that means tomorrow the market's going to crash. But the logical thing to do is to invest the moment you're able to invest. And the flaw of dollar cost averaging, and I have to separate two kinds. Dollar cost averaging, where you are putting money in from your earned income every month. First of all, you don't have any option other than that because you can't invest money until you get it. That kind of dollar cost averaging I'm very much in favor of, and that happens to help smooth the ride. So that's what my daughter does. For instance, she's working and she's saving a large percentage of her income, and it goes in come hell or high water every month. So if the market plunges tomorrow, the next time she invests, she'll just get more shares. But the kind of dollar cost investing we're talking about with you is when you have a lump sum. And the problem is if you dollar cost invest that lump sum over time with the idea of I'm going to avoid this scary possibility of the market dropping the moment I invest my money, well, that only works if, in fact, the market drops. And if the market stays flat, then you have been better off investing it all at once. And, of course, if the market rises, you'll even be worse off by dollar cost investing. But the worst thing is that let's say you've got $120,000. You say, I'm going to put $10,000 a month in until it's fully invested. And you do that. And The day after you make that last investment, that's the day it plunges 50%. So you really haven't protected yourself from that risk, because you can't, because that risk, as I said earlier, is always there once you're invested. And at some point it will bite you. You just have to learn to hold on and live through it. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, if you're investing, you should be thinking in terms of decades, right? I'm never going to sell my holding in BTSAX. Never. I mean, I might sell a little bit of it to pull 4% to live on as a retired guy. But other than that, I'm never going to sell it. I don't have to. It's self-cleansing, as we talked about ever, So from that point of view, then it really doesn't matter if you buy when the market is just about to drop or not. Obviously, if we had a crystal ball, you'd only buy on the low points, but nobody has that.